Today on the Coaching Life Podcast.
I cannot stand when a pitcher hits a batter and then goes over and shakes his hand.
Every time a coach goes and visits a mound, what do we hear? We hear some rehearsed cockamamie bull crap.
What this kid did, he did a good thing. I think it showed his character. It was good for our world to see.
Yes.
It really was. We can learn from these kids, okay? But imagine a game where after every out, after every hit, there is this celebration, this fellowship that takes place.
One day, a couple of guys sat down for lunch and a conversation began. They talked about youth sports, how to be better coaches, how to be better parents, how to be better at developing young people. Not only for the games they play, but for life. That's what the coaching life is, a conversation. And we welcome you. Now, here are the hosts, Chris Stewart and Pat Martin.
Here we go. Episode 125. For our 125th episode, we're about to lose all kinds of listeners.
The one everyone's been waiting on.
Yeah, we may as well come into season 7 with a controversial discussion. And as you scour the internet, Pat, you and I might be in the minority here. Well, we're definitely. Well, I don't know. Parts of us are in the minority here on this.
Well, I'm going to surprise you a little bit with my take, I think.
Well, and I don't think that I necessarily have a hard stand one way or the other either. But
I don't think you can.
I do lean one direction, but yeah, I think it'd be good to talk about. So, what the heck are we talking about anyway? Today.
We're talking about hugs on the ball diamond.
Yeah, that in general, right? Just in general. But this topic has been spurred on by a very specific incident that took place right around, it was in the Little League regionals. Mm-hmm. It was right like August 10th or 11th, somewhere around there. So a couple weeks ago, Texas East was playing against Oklahoma. And Texas East ended up winning the game. I think they were winning the game at the time as well. Not by a lot though. I think Oklahoma had a shot here, had them on the ropes, and kid's up to bat. I think his name is Isaiah, and he gets drilled. A pitch got away from the pitcher, right? Kind of, you could see it. The pitch ran off the outside of his hand, and so it ran up and in, and hit him in the helmet. Kid goes down, and it's down for a second. Coaches, you could hear on the broadcast, coach come running up to him. Oh my gosh! And then the kid gets up, runs first base, and everybody's like, oh, that's. Well, I actually had. Let's just play it.
No, well, real quick too, in defense of that kid, and if you've never really been hit in the helmet like that, especially in the front of the helmet, on the bill of the helmet stuff, sometimes you really don't know whether you've been hit or not.
Right.
Like it hurts.
Yeah, it's not like the helmet is protecting you from pain.
Right. So him dropping down, he probably thought he got hit in the face.
Yeah, there was an instant of pain there probably, and you just don't know. It's a shock.
Yeah.
It's a shock, right? And then he realized, hey, I'm okay.
Yep.
And he ran to first base. Okay. Yep. So this is the incident right here. All right. This is the incident.
Oh, look out.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's Coach. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
We could actually talk about that too, Pat. Coach running up immediately. But when you hear the announcer say that's awesome, basically what is happening here that you guys can't see as you're listening is the kid gets up. So it wasn't that long. He was on the ground for a second. He realized, I'm okay.
Right.
He gets up and runs. So the announcer's like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one tough kid.
That is a tough kid right there.
Yeah. Now, while this is happening, the pitcher is sobbing.
Struggling, yeah.
He's crying.
Yeah.
Openly crying on the mound.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, and I haven't heard whether or not.
So there he goes.
This is really cool because as a pitcher, Bubs looks shaken up right now.
Pitcher's name is Bubs.
Because of what he did. And look at Zay Jarvis. This is such great sportsmanship he wants him to know that it's okay, that he'll be fine.
I think that's where the mistake comes in right there.
Defining that as sportsmanship?
Absolutely.
Boy, you and I are on the same wavelength today, buddy.
Yep.
Now you can listen to that kid sobbing. You could hear him sobbing right there.
Oh, he was struggling with it. Yeah, like he was afraid to throw another pitch.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why right after that, his coach comes out. Like if we were to continue to play the video, the coach comes out and they're all around him, the coach and the opposing kid, all around saying, "Hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And Texas East went on to win the game. Actually,
the coach had to come out, didn't he? I mean, he was mic'd up, so.
Oh my, yeah. Yeah,
he had to come out. But.
Well, and I'm going to be honest with you, Pat. One of the points that I think I'd like to address today in this conversation is I think sometimes that's why we're seeing this different kind of stuff so often on ESPN.
Yeah.
Because they know they're in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Years ago, the Little League World Series was on ESPN, and no one really thought much about it because there wasn't much spotlight. I mean, it was ESPN, right? And it's always been on there for several years. But now they didn't air the regionals back in the day. It was just Williamsport, the actual World Series. Now you're seeing every game from the moment these kids have won the state championship and all the regionals now. And they're big deals. They're playing in big stadiums, Little League sized stadiums, but still a couple thousand people there, potentially, depending on how close you live to that area. But I have I don't want to get ahead of myself. I do want to make a qualifying statement, though. Okay, is that okay? So you and I have spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about crazy parents, over the top coaches, right? Overcoaching, the overzealousness of the adults. Yeah. How the adults have stolen the game away from the kids, and it's not fun anymore. And so when you hear us maybe have a different opinion you might expect, Pat and I to have here, we're not those guys, right? We're not like Dave Portnoy.
Everyone's rolling their eyes.
We're not that guy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're not here. Here we go.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
We're not that guy.
Our buttons are
we're
working
not that
again.
guy. Yeah. So we're not Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports, right? We're not going to say this is just dumb. You don't do that. We might joke a little bit about it and talk a little about, and there might be a little tongue in cheek. And every time there's a tongue in cheek statement, there is, I admit, a little bit of truth. At least,
yeah.
Like if I am a cynic about something, that there's a little bit of truth in what I'm thinking there.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, Coach, I think it's probably an extreme perspective. But I think there's a lot of danger in what we're seeing in this small microcosm of life of Little League baseball or youth baseball. I think there's danger, future danger to our society in the way that we deal with these things. So I don't know how we're going to get started. I've got a lot of thoughts in my mind, but what?
Yeah, you prepared a lot, so go ahead.
Here's what I'm going to say. I cannot stand when a pitcher hits a batter and then goes over and shakes his hand.
You know what,
or
Pat?
her hand.
You remember about 6 years ago? That happened once, didn't it? And everybody on ESPN, I remember seeing the broadcast.
Yep.
I think you and I even talked about it. I mean, we weren't on the podcast, but we actually were friends before the podcast. And we're like, oh, wow. Did you see that? And it happened once.
Mm-hmm. And now?
I've not ever seen a batter get hit in the Little League regionals and World Series yet where the pitcher didn't go do that. It happens all the time now.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem.
Commonplace.
We are dictating behavior off of this.
What if a kid chooses not to do that tonight? In a game tonight, right?
Exactly.
Well, is he a poor sportsman because he doesn't do that?
Yes. Right. And that's the danger part. We're and they're doing it because they're being led to believe that that's a show, a display of righteousness.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And I think
virtue signaling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's dangerous.
And it's tough because every time in the back of my mind, as we're as we say something like that, in the back of my mind, I'm going, we're talking about 12-year-old kids.
Right? Yeah, that's what everyone always says.
And it is.
We're talking about the future leaders of our world.
Right. We're talking about behaviors that will create a pattern that will eventually be, what kind of adults are you? And I know it's probably really, really difficult to imagine any negative of that behavior, right? Going and shaking somebody's hand.
Right. We're going to get somewhere with that. Mrs. Coach Stewart isn't going to be listening to this episode, is she? She already does.
She always does.
She doesn't like. She's mad at me for not being in on the handshake line.
Who, my wife?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No?
Did you talk to her about it?
Yeah, I think she was giving me a hard time. She's like, don't even start.
I think she was joking with you. Yeah. I don't think that she would be, and we have to ask her. April actually told me, this is off the topic, but she said she has an idea for an episode.
Yeah.
And her idea is that you and I take a week off and she and Chastity come in here and record and just talk about us and basically clear up all the things that we have talked about them that are not true.
I mean,
right?
you have to. You have to have some talent to do what we do, Coach. You know what I'm saying?
You don't think they can handle it?
Yeah, it takes a special. I mean, they got to be prepared. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's hours of preparation. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have them do it from start to finish. You want to produce this thing? Go ahead. No, I know April could do it. Well, she's probably sent it to Kaylee. Kaylee could do it. She's a podcaster. No, I don't think that she would be. I don't think that she would be in disagreement of the majority of what you and I are going to talk about today.
Here's what I'm going to say about, his name's Isaiah Thomas or
I don't know what his last, it may be. I don't know. Isaiah.
Something like
you said Isaiah Thomas, and my mind went to the NBA basketball player.
Right, yeah. No, I think
his name is Isaiah.
Okay, so I do think what he did was a genuine show of character,
kindness,
good character, and kindness,
compassion,
absolutely, and
empathy.
I am not against it at all.
100%.
What makes my spine tingle is the idea that now, because we're celebrating this, and we should. It's I'm not against. People. What would you say? The what's he going to go do? Throw the first pitch of what?
Well, So I happened to, before we came in the studio here today, I just wanted to see where this was at. Like, has this been forgotten? Right? Is this? I mean, this is something that happened, and then it was kind of a cool, warm moment, but it's been forgotten.
Right.
Wrong.
No. It's not going to be.
I Googled this. If you Google Little League hug, you will get thousands of news stories and articles and things. And one of them that I watched was it was a news story from Oklahoma, from an Oklahoma news station, saying that basically covering this event, the Little League Commission invited this young man to come there because their team did not make it to the Little League World Series. So they invited him to come to the Little League World Series and throw out the first pitch. And and I actually have here Pat, I found it. Let me hear this. You got listen to this.
Where rooms full of adults and cameras point to him for inspiration isn't lost on him.
It's crazy that adults.
So he's at Williamsport.
To me. It's kind of weird.
He's become something of a celebrity.
Listen to that. Listen to what he just said.
Waiting to get an autograph from passing pro players, only to be swamped by kids who want his signature. It's a unique kind of pressure not many 12-year-olds experience.
I chose to play that clip because it illustrates, I think, exactly what point you're making. And you said, I kind of talked over it, but the kid said it's kind of weird that adults are looking up to me.
Yeah.
Right? Feels kind of strange. And the whole, that segment began with this newscaster talking about how it's just a strange feeling that as soon as he got to Williamsport, he was in a room full of adults and cameras in his face and people wanting to talk to him. And you guys couldn't see it on the video, but he actually had a T-shirt on that said, "The hug felt around the world." No, I'm sorry. The T-shirt says, hey, Bubs, you're doing just fine. And they call it the hug felt around the world. So they're selling these T-shirts, and they're giving all the profits of the T-shirts to kids in underprivileged areas that don't have the ability to afford to play baseball somewhere. That should never be a problem. I mean, they may not have the ability to play travel baseball, right? But you should be able to play baseball in any given league, right? Rec leagues, things like that. Anyway,
that's an episode.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But anyway, this whole celebrity thing, there's something about the spotlight that may, let me just say this, it may cause people to behave a little differently than they normally do.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And you and I, we joke about this almost every night that the Little League World Series is on, because every time a coach goes and visits a mound, what do we hear? We hear some rehearsed cockamamie bull crap, because he's got microphone. He knows he's mic'd up, and he gets out there, and everybody knows this. I just for once want to hear the ESPN announcers say what's really going through their mind, right? Because this guy comes out and he says, hey, you're doing great. We're all great. Look at the rainbow in the sky. There's a puppy that we're going to let you pet later. Let's just go out there, take a deep breath. Blow it out, all right? Let's think of some happy thoughts. Okay, let's go get them, right? And all these kids standing around the mound are looking at like, who is this strange guy talking to us? Because just 3 weeks ago when ESPN cameras weren't around, that's not what the guy was saying. Sorry.
I saw one, me and Jake were watching, and the guy went out and said something, similar to that, and then he reached up and tapped the guy on the kid on the chest, and the kid flinched. I said, "Oh no!" I said, "Look at that!" I said, "You think that was genuine?" That kid thought he was going to get punched after that.
Because that has happened before, buddy. Yes. Oh no! It is, but that's another thing, Pat. That's gone. That's the norm now. Why? Because a few years back, a coach from Hawaii or wherever, I don't know where he was from, had a really cool speech afterwards. It was really good. It was really genuine, and you could tell that coach has a great heart, and that's a good coach.
Yeah.
And now everybody wants to have one, and you could tell when it's forced on some of these guys.
I think so, and maybe
not all of them.
Yeah, maybe not all of them, but you have to believe that some of them are. Well, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And what that is, it's an example of something that we've talked about, and I think it's true. For the whole conversation is It's just an example of us taking the game away from the kids.
Us taking it away, the media taking it away, the spotlight taking it away.
And the industry of baseball taking it away. You know what I mean? That's baseball, youth sports are becoming more and more a massive industry in our world. And so, Isaiah, I don't think he did that because he knew the camera. I think it was genuine. I think his action was
not disingenuous.
Right. But what I fear is going to happen is now, because of the spotlight, because of the notoriety that he's receiving, and because of the way that all of us in baseball or in the world are talking about this, is that we're going to see this more often. And I think when you do stuff like that,
but Pat, don't you want to see it more often?
No, and that's the thing. That's where I think we differ with a lot of people. I think everyone's like, "Oh, it's a good thing to do," and I don't think things are good to practice if you're not genuine. Like disingenuous things, I don't think that's good to. It's a lie. Is what it is. It's not real, and like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I think it's dangerous.
We're living our entire lives in front of cameras now.
Yeah.
Whether it be a TikTok camera or an ESPN camera or a Facebook camera, an Instagram camera, or whatever. They're literally. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and I was talking about how it mentioned some kind of percentage of America's landscape that is covered by video. Right now, like surveillance video, everyone has one of those Ring cams on the front of their doors, right? Cameras, and being in a spotlight is part of everyday life for these kids growing up, for all of us. And what do we try to do when we're on camera? We try to look our best.
Yeah.
We try to be our best. We got be on my best behavior. Do my best. Do something that's out of the ordinary, right? Do something that's going to get me likes. Do something that's going to cause me to go viral. That's the world that your kids are growing up in. If you're listening to our podcast with young kids right now, they're trying to one up everybody. And what's happened here in the Little League World Series is all these coaches are trying to one up the next guy's speech, the guys before them speech. These kids are trying to. Again, we're talking about kids, right? Yep. But they see it and they know it. They know that they're in this kind of spotlight, and therefore we will see that again.
Yeah,
we will see it again. And the next kid that does it, it may not be very genuine. He may feel like I got to go do this because the kid before me did it, and if I don't do it, then I'm going to look like a butthole.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at with the pitchers going over and shaking batter's hand.
Well, what is sportsmanship? What is the definition of sportsmanship?
I don't. You have the.
I got it on my iPad right here. I'll just read it. All right. But then there are lots. There are people write articles about sportsmanship and things like that, and I think we get a pretty good idea of all the elements of what makes good sport, right? But just just how Webster's dictionary defines it, it's fair and generous behavior or treatment of others, especially in a sports contest. Okay, so that's a very kind of general statement. But I also like the fact that as people define sportsmanship, you get this, this multifaceted. It's not just it's not easy to define, right? It's one of those things where I know it when I see it, and sometimes it's not what you might think. Like I read one article where it talks about there are 4 elements of sportsmanship, and they basically they defined it in 4 words: fairness, equity, good form, and the will to win.
Ooh.
Well, you read fairness, equity, good form, and you're like, okay, cool. But then you hear the will to win. Well, what are we doing? We're playing a sport. We're competing, right? Yeah. So how does the will to win fit in with the definition of sportsmanship? It seems to fly in the face of the rest of those things, right? What is the will to win? I want to beat you.
Yeah.
I want to beat you in this contest.
Right. So when the guy hits the home run and your shortstop gives him the high five, hey, nice shot, man.
Is that what we should be teaching as sportsmanship?
Right.
I don't think so.
Because
honestly do not believe so. Does that
impact your will to win at all? I think so.
Yeah, it may not, but it doesn't help it.
What do we tell?
It doesn't help it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And I would say, anyone that listen out there that's kind of like, ugh, this isn't good. What do we tell our kids when they're playing their friends?
Yeah.
They're your opponent right now.
Yeah. Oh,
right,
listen.
Go out and beat them.
I think I've told the story before. When I was coaching my daughter in basketball, the very first year she played on an organized basketball team with her friends. I mean, she had actually played before that when she was in second grade, but this 4th grade basketball team was her first team with her friends, and which means it was the first time that many of her friends had ever played basketball. And now I said 4th grade, right? So what age is that? 9, 10?
Yeah,
right around there. Yeah. Some were probably 9, others were probably 10.
That's right.
Yep. So 9 and 10-year-olds. Yep. And one of the things that I noticed about these girls is they were all sweethearts. I mean, the nicest, kindest. They came from really good parents. Their parents did a really great job raising them. They were very compassionate, and here's the problem: it showed on the basketball court. There was a loose ball in practice, and they were too kind. They didn't want to go get it. And so I sat down with them one day at the beginning of practice. I said, there's something that we have to understand about sports, because it was some of these girls, it was the first sport they'd played. And I said, you can play against your best friend and still want to destroy them. And I said, in practice, we don't have an opponent here, but in practice, your teammates are those people. They're your opponents. You're fighting for a spot. Not only are you fighting for a spot on the team, a starting position or whatever, but you're also the harder you go, the better your teammates become.
Yep.
And so in essence, that's loving them. That's loving your team, going hard against them.
That's competing with your team, your team against other teams.
Absolutely.
Because that's when you're preparing to beat the other team.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I said, here's what we're going to do, girls. Because I said, I know all your moms and dads want you to be sweet, sweethearts, right? Just like you are. And we know that you are. But there's a context for everything. And so when we step in this gym, I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, every time we step in the gym, what's one of the first things I do? Because where we practice, the lights were off in the gym, and we'd go in and we'd flip the light switch on. And I said, we walk in, and the first thing we do is we flip the light switch on, right? And that means it's time to play ball. So I said, what I want you to do is I want you to imagine that you have a switch in your brain and in your body, your behavior will follow, that says, I'm a competitor now, and I want to win. All right. And I'm not saying you're going to do everything, like you're not going to bite people and things like that. We're going to play within the rules, right? Good sportsmanship is kindness, fairness, equity, right? Things like that. But it's also the will to win, which means when we flip the switch, now you want to beat this person across from you. You may not even think that way tomorrow at lunch because you see this person out on the, you meet them at the county fair or something like that. And you're like, hey, we played against each other, and you may, even go out to eat with them. You may be friends, great friends later, even though you were competitors today.
Yeah.
But I said, you have to understand that while you're in the heat of competition, it is good sportsmanship to want to beat that person,
yes.
Beat them in this game. That is part of it. And that's what you need to understand. We're not out here to just, sport is about winning. In many ways, it's about winning.
Play to win the game, right?
Yeah.
Right, Coach?
You play to win the game.
I think that's the caveat with the handshake line, too. You've kind of busted my sabotage on you. I was going to bring up, at some point, someone thought it was a good idea for the whole team, both teams, to go through a line and shake hands or give each other fives. It's not even a handshake. Can we be honest? It's not even a handshake. It's a small slap. A lot of times the kids are angry anyway, and they're jerking their hands up and all that. But yeah, at some point someone said, "Let's do this."
Did you see the Little League game or travel game, whatever? Someone was videotaping a handshake line.
Yeah, I know.
And the coach gives the kid a shoulder.
They
shrug.
shoved him.
Yeah. I think that guy was. I think they pressed charges on that guy or something, didn't they?
I think so. Yeah, that wasn't a good story.
I made sure I did not send that to you.
But I saw it. But to your credit, the handshake line happens after the game. So you can't really, it's not the same, same argument. You're
not stopping every time there's a good play and going out and shaking the center fielder's hand for that great diving catch that he made on the ball that you just laced out there.
Right, and I think that's where we want to get. I think that's what I want people to know. Not against not against that show, not against, what this kid did. He did a good thing. I think it, like I said, it showed his character. Mm-hmm. It was good. It was good for our world to see.
Yes.
It really was. We can learn from these kids, okay? But imagine a game where after every out, after every hit, there is this, this celebration, this fellowship that takes place. How ridiculous that would be.
Yeah.
And we're teaching our kids how to do X. Well, we are, but there's like you said, you use the word context. In different contexts, you teach your kids different things. Mm-hmm. And in baseball, in sports, one of the things that you are teaching your kids is how to be a winner.
Yeah, a hard competitor, right? Yeah. And some kids, and here's the thing. I think this is a good point to make. Some people are going to be different. You and I may coach a team where we have a kid on their team. That's who they are on and off the field, and they still compete hard, right? And that's just what they do all the time. That's great. I'm not going to tell them not to necessarily, but I'm also not going to tell all my other players, look at that kid right there. Mm. That's the example of sportsmanship. Yeah. We need to be more like him, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that we all need to be like him.
Yeah.
I think that's great when you got kids like that. That was what was in the kid's heart at the time, very genuine, go and do that. And you and I, again, we may have a kid like that someday. but it doesn't mean it's going to be part of my team manual at the beginning of the year that every time you see an opponent who's really upset about something that was an accident, we're going to go and console him and make sure he's okay before the game continues.
Yeah. And if my number one pitcher hits somebody and then decides to go over and shake his hand, and then he gets up on the mound and strikes the next 3 hitters out, that's okay, right? Right. But if he hits somebody, goes, shakes his hand, and then doesn't have the command, doesn't have the, the composure or the confidence on the mound that he did before that happened, then now you got to think, well, what's the problem?
Still affecting him. It's the same way as making an error and not being able to shake it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem here was that this kid. There could have been a number of problems. Who knows? But the kid, the pitcher, he couldn't shake it.
No.
And even after the kid gets up and runs to first base, it's obvious he's okay, right? He was sobbing. It really affected him in a bad way, right?
I've seen it happen. I got hit when I was a senior. We had a kid that had always played youth baseball in the area. The big left-hander, could throw hard, good pitcher, but he never played high school ball for whatever reason until his senior year. And he came out, and then it was early. We were scrimmaging inter-squad, and he threw a ball, and I guess because it was he's left-handed. I don't know. It just got up on me, and it hit me.
Lefty on lefty.
Yeah, it hit me in the helmet, and I went down the same way as that kid did. And I thought, oh man, I'm busted open. The guys came around. I'm like, am I bleeding? They're like, no, you're not bleeding. I'm like, I'm not. So I jumped right back up, just like this kid did. But the pitcher didn't recover.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah.
It scared him. Like,
I could seriously hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And that's probably what's going through that kid's mind is, he's okay, but I could have seriously hurt him.
Yeah.
So all those scenarios are playing in his head, and it's frightening. Yeah, I get it. What if it doesn't scare you? What if you're the pitcher?
Are you a bad person?
There you go.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, think, how does that apply? How does that apply in life? Because it sounds cruel.
It does.
It sounds harsh. I'll tell you a story where it applies. My dad had heart surgery. I think about, how long ago was that? Almost 20 years ago, I think. Major heart surgery. Big time deal. We're all shooken up in the waiting room, waiting on him. He comes out, and the surgeon comes out. He's in his surgical gown. He's got blood on him. He comes out.
Have a little feel, fella.
Yeah. Well, he comes out, and he's like, hey, everything went good. He's in the recovery room. He's going to be in there a little while. He's like, nothing. Everything went well. Good. Everything went good. So we're like, that's good. And he says, but I'm starving. I got to go get something to eat. He has the cafeteria. And it's like, that's weird. Like, he just literally had my dad's life in his hands. He had a person's life in his hands.
Yeah.
And he wasn't shook a bit.
He wasn't feeling the same way you guys were feeling.
That's true. And thank God he wasn't.
Yes. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah. That's a winner,
Yeah.
And I've been in a situation like that before with other doctors where I want to see that swag out of them before I trust them a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I want Pedro Martinez doing surgery on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not someone who can't handle a little bit of...
and we're not here. This is a touchy subject, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for this pitcher to learn too.
Sure,
you can hurt somebody.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things in life you can hurt people doing. Right. That it's a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to handle it? How are you going to deal with it?
Yeah.
So
we know that there are.
Our views look like? Are they going? Oh,
we know already. Even while we're recording, even though it's not live streamed, we do what we hear. So we teased this last week, right?
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of things that have been happening and all that. Yeah. We said, and really this week's topic came from last week's episode, and we were like, let's just go ahead and talk about this the whole time next week. Well, because we teased it, we've had some people reach out to us and say, well, let me give you my thoughts. And I said, well, wait a minute. Don't get ahead of us, right? But now you're listening, all right? And we have, there are questions, I think, for you and me that maybe we could try to answer here, right? Like one of the questions is, Is this one of those quote unquote unwritten rules of baseball that you're not supposed to behave that way? Like you hit someone, now we get to, maybe that kid was upset because, the unwritten rule in baseball is now I'm going to get hit in the head, right? Or
possible.
Are you and I? Is this conversation about one of the unwritten? I mean, that's what this is.
Yeah. No, not for me.
Yeah, I don't.
For me, it's functional, and I want to know I want to know who's getting better and why, and on a baseball field, how does that impact you as a player, as a person? How does it impact your team? Mm-hmm. And I think it's not always yes or no. It's not always there is no positives. There's only negatives. Sometimes it's a hard thing to weigh.
Yeah,
I think this is probably one of those situations where if you're not dialed in, your perspective is gonna determine the way that you see it. And it just so happens for me, I think life's hard, guys. I really do.
Yeah.
And I want, trust me, my players know that I love them.
Yep.
And I am, I care about them. I'm not.
And you are a compassionate person.
I am.
You are an empathetic person. You are, and I will say this for everyone, he is so much more empathetic and compassionate than I am.
You think so?
You are. There have been times when I've told you, you can't worry about all these. I mean, you can't think about who cares what this person thinks, right? But you do. You really care about people and their feelings and things like that. And yet you have this perspective of this event.
Yeah. Well, it's because I want people to be successful. I want people to stand on their own 2 feet. And I think part of this,
I want us to learn how to go through some difficult things without melting.
Yeah.
I mean, because one of the I'm sorry, I cut you off there. Were you in mid thought there too?
I think you're good.
Sorry.
I don't know.
Because one of the things is getting hit by a pitch is probably the scariest aspect of the game of baseball for little kids. And so, adults, right? If you guys were talking about adults, we could see that's a little ridiculous going on. But we're talking about kids, right? Young kids. And so this is the scariest thing for them to get hit by a pitch. It's scary for parents. It's scary, right? So lighten up a little bit here, Pat, Chris. It's scary.
Yeah, life's scary. And I think there's an element there's books written about this. If you protect yourself.
Jonathan Haidt actually has another new book. Have you seen that? We talked about the coddling of the American mind on here.
Oh, okay, yeah. Safetyism.
Safetyism, yes. Yeah. He actually has written an entire book on safetyism. That chapter did so. I mean.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Good deal.
I'm going to buy it.
I think it's something that everyone should definitely look into.
I'm going to see what episode that was, if I can remember what the title was, so we can recommend it. It was one of our podcast episodes. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, but it goes back to the idea of us as parents allowing our kids to struggle a little bit, to fail a little bit, without trying to save them. Keep them out of that situation, keep them out of that danger. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to to not be happy with where you are and in a certain disposition in life, regardless of what it is. It's okay. Because that's going to happen time and time and time again in your life, and you're going to have to know how to deal with it more so than anything else, internally than externally. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to deal with it. So you learn to deal with it. And when we remove our children from those situations, it denies them the ability to figure that out. I think that's one of the big things that that unstructured free play does for kids. Our idea of unstructured free play, it puts them in situations where they got to figure things out. And when we've done it in practices and things like that in the past with our youth groups, there's always this contingent of parents that want to, they need an umpire. They need someone to help them make calls. No, they don't. They can figure it out.
Yeah, they really don't. Yeah.
Well, or then, a parent's still out there, you got to go to second with that ball. Well, they're going to find that out because their players are probably already yelling at them what they need to do with that pitch, especially with that ball, especially if they know that someone in the stands isn't going to, say the same thing. So you learn things like that when you're on your own. And if we don't give our kids that opportunity, they don't learn those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't find which episode it was. I'm scrolling back through. I know it was before.
Was it not safety? Did we not call it safetyism?
Evidently we didn't. Was
it helicopter parents?
We do have an episode called Helicopter Parents, or very early on, like back in our very first season. But I don't know if that's it or not. I thought that I would have, in the show notes, highlighted the book because we talk so much about the book. But anyway, we'll figure it out. I'll tell you what, I'll find it and then I'll put it in the show notes of this episode.
World's Worst Mom.
That is it. The World's Worst Mom. That's actually a pretty good title. Because I think we played a clip, or we read a story, I think, about
where they let the kid go down the city block. Right?
Yeah. Yep. On his own in New York City. 8 years old. Go buy a loaf of bread. World's Worst Mom.
Gasp.
Can never do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my kid rides his bike across the bridge out of state. So.
That's right.
Oh, Lord. I was driving across that bridge the other day, and I recognized for the first... I didn't know this. There is actually a walkway across it.
On the new bridge, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, there was not... I rode my bike across the old truss bridge as a kid.
There was that wood one, wasn't there? Wasn't there?
Oh, yeah, there was a little one, yes.
Okay,
but not like this. This is pretty luxurious.
You can't fall. You could have fallen off.
You could have fallen through the one that you and I rode across.
I didn't ride across. Are you kidding me?
Well, that's
dangerous.
When I was a little kid, there was a young lady over there I wanted to go see.
Of course,
I'm teasing.
Of course, she was. You were 12. She was 22.
I've got a story for you. I don't know if it's not going to be up on the podcast episode probably, but one of our players, his little brother came on a bus trip with us this year, and when we were out to eat, just remind me to tell you that story. All right?
Okay.
Yeah. He little playa.
Oh boy.
So, but anyway, we know. Listen, we got in a conversation here with a good friend of ours, Chris Carroll. Right in last week, he sent us some thoughts, and I really do appreciate those thoughts because this kind of stuff is good to dialogue about when we're talking about sports and we're talking about the balance between, where does the sport begin and where does it end? When is it about more than just baseball?
Yeah.
Right. And is there a moment during the game where we should recognize it's more than just about baseball there? And some people will say, and I think this was actually one of the points that Chris made, is that that it took more toughness for the kid to go over during the middle of the game and give the kid a hug.
No, I agree. I mean, if that wasn't engineered in any way by parents saying, hey,
right,
you need to.
Oh, and it wasn't, obviously.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I agree with Chris on that. I really do. I think I told him that you might be surprised what my take's going to be because I do think it took a lot of bravery.
And I think he even said it took a lot of intestinal fortitude for the kid to go do that, knowing that the cameras were on him. Right.
Yeah.
But absolutely. I also think that sometimes that's the reason why we're seeing this stuff.
If we see it again, that took a little less, toughness, right? In my opinion.
In my opinion too.
The next time we see this, it's not such a big a deal.
And I just think the coach's speeches, mic'd up speeches, are an example of it. It's a microcosm of the same thing. They're getting more and more ridiculous.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Because why? Knowing that the cameras are on you, knowing that the microphone's on you. There's something cringy about that, right? Now, there wasn't anything cringy to me about I mean, some people were saying, oh, that's just cringe, this kid going and doing that. I'm like, that's interesting. But then, if someone looks at me and says, would you do that? And my answer, like last week we said this, and my answer was no, I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do it either.
But it doesn't make me a bad sport.
No, it doesn't make you a bad person.
Sure.
No, I agree. I think that would be but like that to me. That's where the conversation begins right there. Okay, this was a great thing. You know, all these people out here might say, "Well, you know, Coach Stewart, Coach Martin, these are kids. You know, we should do it." But okay, what if they don't do it? Mm-hmm. What's your perspective of that now?
That's the point you and I are making. Really, you just summarized it. What if they don't?
Yeah.
Can you still be a good sport? Can you still play this game the right way? Is it still about more than just baseball?
Yeah. Are you still a good person?
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes to that.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't dictate those things.
Yeah.
For sure. So hopefully everyone's getting our point there.
Right. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of articles that have the title, "We Need More of This." Well, I don't think we do need more of this in baseball, in football, we need more of this in life.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, we do. You're not kidding. In fact, CNN, who wrote the article, actually CNN was the very first one that I saw, ironically enough. You and all of you major news networks need more of this. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there is an extreme irony there in the people that are pushing this looking and saying, well, these sports that these barbarians play that want to beat one another, that needs more of this. No, really. I watch UFC. You watch UFC fighting?
Sure.
There are no greater sportsmanship examples than in UFC fighting. But I guarantee you they're not, because what do they do afterwards? Guy beats a guy to a pulp, knocks him out. And as soon as he comes to, what are they doing?
Usually now they're bad-mouthing each other like crazy before the fights too, but then they still, most commonly.
And I think a lot of that is mental, right? It's getting themselves ready to, I need to tell myself I don't like this guy, right? Because some of these guys train together.
You know what I think?
A lot of these MMA guys train together.
I think a lot of it is because they know the camera's on them.
Because it's on the show. Yes. You're not kidding me.
And it sells.
There it is again. That's exactly, therein lies the point, right? But afterwards, though, they're giving each other tips, they're talking, they're hugging, they do. There you go. Have you ever seen one of them stop in the middle of the fight and do that?
No.
I don't think I ever have. Maybe there's an example out there somewhere. But if so, there's a reason why you've never heard of that guy.
Like punch him in the face. Superman punch him in the face. He goes down. The eyes starts watering. He goes over and hugs him.
It's going to be all right, Bubs. It's going to be all right.
This is a horrible example, fellas. Yeah,
it is. But it's a sport, right? It's a sport, and the guys they're wanting to beat one another.
Does the fact that they don't do that make the sport any less meaningful? Does it make them any less of a sportsman?
Yeah.
No. And it's probably not going to be something that would catch on if someone did do it because of the danger of doing it in the middle of a fight. But
yeah,
I think you have to weigh, the advantages. You have to weigh the reward, what you get from the game of baseball. And I think the idea of competition is a huge priority when we talk about sports, when we talk about youth sports, understanding how to compete, how to fight through tough times, how to have that will to win.
Right. How to turn the switch on.
Yeah.
And then turn it off.
Yeah. I think it's huge.
Yeah.
I really think that's important.
Yeah. I think what happens, in a situation like that is Isaiah maybe didn't know how to turn the switch off or switch on, right?
Yeah.
And that's not true. He went back to the bag and tried to score. I'm sure. He was being a competitor. So he just flipped. He chose to flip it off in the middle of the game there. Flip the switch off and then flip it back on, right? And we're saying you don't have to do that. You don't have to flip the switch off in the middle of the game.
Right.
You really don't.
Right.
But after it, I want my guys to. Absolutely. I want you to be a good sport. You don't. I know you don't. You don't like the handshake line.
You're going to go through the handshake line and pretend to give everyone congratulations.
But I don't necessarily want it. I don't want them to flip the switch on and off during the game. Don't flip it on and off. No, we're here to win. We're going to beat these guys. We're not here to cheat. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to laugh at you. We're not here to do anything that's not good sportsmanship. But within the realm of sportsmanship, we're going to play like crazy to beat you today.
Yeah, and the real story behind this is before that coach got out there and you could hear it mic'd up, Isaiah actually told Bubs, "You really screwed up here, man. I'm going to score on you now."
That's what Jeremiah would have said, right?
Sure. Who knows what Jeremiah would have said?
He wouldn't have been out there. He wouldn't have been at the mound. He would have stayed right where he was at.
People are out there. If they're listening to this, they're like, "Well, yeah, we know where Jeremiah gets his mentality from now."
Well, we're not going to go into any more of that conversation that we had with Chris in that text message. He accused you of cheating and all this stuff, stacking a slow pitch softball team and all that stuff. So we'll leave that.
We should have Chris on. We can have that conversation.
We need to have Chris on because he's the president of one of our youth league associations in the area where you and I coach, and he does an outstanding job and a tremendous job of promoting and supporting the kids in the Eastern School District, the young kids, and I'm really, really grateful for people like that.
Absolutely.
I mean, every town needs people like that. So
he puts a lot of time into it, a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Means something to him. It's means something to his family for a long time. His grandpa.
Oh, absolutely.
His grandpa Pat was very involved with that, and
it was not uncommon to have an entire officiating crew whose last name was Carroll.
Sometimes it's still not. I mean,
even still, right?
Especially if you go out there. Of course, everyone knows you're getting cheated if that happens, but
in case you can't tell our voices apart, that was Pat.
I got a text from Nathan a little earlier.
Another Carroll?
Yes, Nathan Carroll.
Yeah.
We had him. He was a guest on our show. Yep. A couple years
as
ago.
An official, we were talking about officiating. Yeah.
He just gave me a hard time about never working. So that's what he.
Because you work from home. They heard us.
I'm podcasting in the middle of the day, so he's like, "Oh, you're not working."
People don't think this is work. Well, this is hard work, guys.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Exactly. That's right. They don't know that you and I tack an extra hour on in the mornings on Tuesdays so that when we do this recording.
Yeah,
we're off the clock here. We punched out.
Are you off the clock? This is training for you.
I don't have it. It's sometimes I wish I had a job where I was on and off the clock. Because I was, on Sunday, I was here till 11 o'clock at night, training ambassadors and then getting, the facilities and everything ready. But the good thing about being salaried is you have the flexibility of,
especially right now.
You're the same administrative as I am. I mean, yeah.
I think, forgive me, if there was one good thing that came out of the pandemic, it was the flexibility that we've learned that that some of our jobs
that you actually can work with.
Yeah. And knowing that you don't, that 8 to 5 isn't always, required depending on what your job is. But some jobs are. Some jobs you have to work 8 to 5. Some jobs,
sure.
You have to be present. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Hey. What is I can't remember. I remember there was what was the guy's name that did the phone pranks? He's probably
Roy D. Mercer?
Yes, Roy D. Mercer. He called a guy up, and he was acting like he was, the Sharon, his wife Sharon Jean and all that. Something happened, and he was all upset, and he talked about missing work, and I don't know what it was, but the guy on the other line was just dying laughing, and he was like, "You should have gone to college. You'd have a better job." And it was like backfiring, and the guy was just dying laughing. Like,
Roy D. Mercer probably said, "Well, it ain't funny."
That's right. Yep. How big a boy are you? Anyway.
All right, everybody.
Actually, I wouldn't necessarily encourage everybody to go to college today, even though I need to say that quietly here as we're recording on a college campus.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It goes in ebbs. That's life. That's history. It goes up and down.
Ebbs and flows. It does.
It's not that hard to understand.
Yep.
If you have a long period of time where a bunch of people are going to college, the less valuable that experience is going to be. And
that credential.
Yeah.
The experience may be valuable.
Right, yeah.
But the credential later,
there,
it really isn't that valuable today.
Right.
For general studies, right?
Yeah, in general.
I mean, obviously, I want my doctors going to college. I want my attorney that I have to hire here, to go to. I hope they got a good,
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so skilled laborers are a thing that are really needed right now.
Without a doubt. And honestly, for some of that labor and the kind of people that you need to do it, I don't necessarily want those guys to have gone to college. I don't want them overthinking everything. I want them to do it simply and do it well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. You don't always learn your trade in these classrooms and in these hallways and on these campuses.
That's true. That's
you learn a lot different things sometimes.
When you're put into situations where you have to learn, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Reach out to us. Let us know how bad of people we are.
Right.
Tell us if you're never going to listen again.
Yeah, our listenership did not go down after our 3-month hiatus. We looks like we still have the same number of downloads that we had as the last time that in May. So
we're back now. We're back better than ever.
It ought to double.
This is the Golick show.
Between last week and this week, it ought to double, triple next week.
Greenberg. What was Greenberg and Golick show called? Was it the
Mike and Mike?
Mike and Mike in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Pat and Chris.
Back and better than ever.
Mid-afternoon.
Because we went how long's it been since we went 2 weeks in a row in person?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I'd say it's been a while.
Yeah. I actually got a comment, man, and it said, it sounds so much better when Pat's in person. I said, well, yeah, his voice, listen to that voice, man. You got a voice for radio.
Yeah.
It's like butter.
Hick.
Like butter.
Hick. It's the hick button. They'll make a...
Do you sing baritone in church?
Is that real deep?
Is there you ever sang in a choir or anything like that, or with a group of people?
They won't let me sing.
Yeah, it would be
choir.
it would be the deeper.
The choir makes fun of me when I sing.
Okay.
People like to sit beside me in church because they know they don't have to sing as loud if they're sitting beside me.
Because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I drown them out.
Okay. Oh, you belt it.
Oh yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
I'm a singer.
It's the only way to go.
I gave the sermon a few weeks ago. For the first time, pandemic came along. We started to record our, put it on stream. Our church services, so people that wasn't able to make it or people that are sick could still attend.
And you still do that, right?
And we've continued.
Yeah,
to do that.
we continue to do that. Yeah.
But it's the first time that I've had the microphone attached to me, and it was odd. It messed with my mind. I wasn't comfortable with it for whatever.
You were mic'd up?
I was mic'd up.
And you were just very disingenuous the whole time.
No, I didn't. No, you know why? Because I didn't know I was going to be mic'd. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know I was going to be mic'd up, the way I was, so I wasn't prepared for it. Next time I will be.
Yeah, that's
It'll
right.
be a great sermon.
You're going to prepare that.
I'll be able to rip that thing off, no problem. But I had the button in my pocket, and our technician, outstanding guy, said, here, you push this button to turn your microphone off. And I said, why would I want to turn it off? He said, well, in case you start singing, you don't want people to listen to you. I was like, oh.
He said that to you?
Yeah.
That's funny. I thought you were going to say, well, in case you go to the restroom between the sermon and the...
I wasn't mic'd up until it was time to go.
Leslie Nielsen Naked Gun moment there. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I guess you learned how that particular deacon feels about your singing.
Well, I think it was because people don't want their singing to be heard on the.
Oh, they don't understand. Yeah, you want that. I'll bring a guitar in next week and we'll play a little tune here. You can belt it out here. You could do our opening music.
We can do it. You talk about losing listeners. We're dangerously approaching that fork, but. It's good to be back in, Coach.
It is good to be back in. Yeah. We'll have another awesome episode next week. Just wait. On the edge of their seats right now, listening. Some people haven't even gotten out of the car yet because they want to hear the teaser for next week.
Me too.
That's it.
See you, everyone.